Yep. And then if that successfully finishes, then we can try to pass it. No. Successful. You didn't get it. You go to 200. Go ahead and close it. And then just try the password one more time. If it doesn't go, it's just
I couldn't open mine at home because all I had was my phone.
whatever number you press.
And so I never did open. My phone's acting stupid for some reason, so
Are
what do
we,
you do?
Hold on 1 second.
I only got one.
So everybody was here for the,
I don't
There you
know.
go.
all the minutes?
We're ready to, so you might have to refresh.
I haven't done it yet.
You can't go into it yet.
She said,
Oh.
I have to update those too, so when I get home, I'll try to figure it out.
I'm gonna be used to
Still
this
logged in,
watch.
so.
Here, I made the meeting live. Well, I don't know.
You know, if you had to refresh it so you can join the meeting.
Oh,
No, I'm in.
Are you join?
did you join it?
Did you join the
She
meeting?
just opened it to
Log
join it.
in?
No,
Says you're logged in.
No,
you gotta join the meeting.
you gotta join the
Okay,
meeting.
where's that?
You're probably gonna have to refresh,
Yeah.
and then it'll come back up, and then you go back in the meeting. and it'll
Where
come
do I
up.
refresh it,
A
right?
little circle at the top.
I'm doing the same thing.
Up top
Round
corner,
circle.
a little round circle.
Oh, well, that makes me feel better.
I know that one. I found that
Doing
one.
the same thing.
And then you come back up to meetings, and then you click on the meeting, and it'll come up and say join the meeting.
Mine will come up to
No.
Jackson, Wyoming. Huh. I guess, I don't know. I have no peeps.
It says no.
Try refresh.
Peeps don't like me.
I gotta go to
didn't they send this to us?
this one.
You wanna go to meeting?
Yeah, I thought we had a.
We got a whole phone.
Thursday morning.
What is it?
I was on top of the director's.
Oh, yeah,
box, right?
yeah.
I've been to big time.
Kleenex?
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe it's updated.
that's right.
Mark from welding.
I worked 4 hours in there 3 days, and then I got tomorrow night's meeting, then the next night I got board adjustments meeting, and then
Is there a lot coming in front of that?
no. Makes me bad for 19, and I'm there yet. Chapter 19, we need chapter 19 through the two votes.
So, Jackie, that'll update when you switch networks. I don't know. When I went to my phone, it pulled right up.
Okay. I'll do that in a minute.
It's gotta be them.
Everybody ready? All right. I will call this meeting to order at 7:30. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next thing on our agenda is roll call, please.
Mayor Terry Wycombe,
Here.
Vice Mayor Steve Sanger,
Here.
Councilmember Darrell Gardner,
Here.
Councilmember Tanya Lumen,
Here.
Councilmember Bruce Seelow,
Here.
Councilmember Jacqueline Wells,
Here.
Councilmember Chris Weisenberg.
Here.
All right, thank you. Next thing on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Councilman Weisenberg?
I move to approve the the April 18th, 2023 City Council agenda as presented.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the April 18th, 2023 City Council agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online
Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion. Councilman Wells?
I move to approve the consent agenda with pulling out the minutes of April 4th, 2023 regular council meeting and the removal of the executive session minutes of April 4th, 2023 regular council meeting.
I'll second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the removal of April 4th regular council council meeting minutes, as well as the executive session minute meetings for that same meeting. Is there any further discussion? Please open online voting.
I have to move them, so can you, okay,
Sure.
just a moment, please. I know. I know, I have to move it back in. I know.
Never been reloaded or whatever.
Yeah, good. But I gotta put the motion in. Okay, so you'll all have to refresh because I moved them down to where they are located, okay? So online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
Okay, thank you. So the next thing on our agenda is a public hearing, and at this time I will open a public hearing. This is for ordinance for the second reading and waive the reading of the ordinance to award Rawlins, to amend, Rawlins Municipal Code, Section 10.15.070, failure to maintain liability coverage. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to that? Seeing none, I will close that public hearing, and we will move to the next thing on the agenda, and it is citizens' participation. This is a time set aside by resolution number 2C-96 that sets a time limit for public comment of 5 minutes or under. The time may be increased by the request of a member of the public or a council, subject to a vote of the council, and there are rules that apply, of course, and they are stapled to the agendas you guys picked up that are in the back of the room. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to the council about anything that is not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, the next thing on the agenda is a proclamation. And the first proclamation is the National Crime Victims' Rights Week, City of Rawlins, Wyoming proclamation, National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Whereas America has joined together annually each April for National Crime Victims' Rights Week, which was first declared in 1981 by President Ronald Reagan to focus on attention of our nation on the rights of all crime victims, and whereas we must remain united in our commitment to ensure that victims of all crimes and survivors are treated with compassion, respect, sensitivity, and be recognized as key participants within our system of justice and afforded services that provide them with hope and self-confidence. And whereas by promoting victims' rights and honoring crime victims and those who advocate on their behalf, we focus on the issues and trauma experienced by victims of crime and the services available to support them, and provide an opportunity to strive to achieve the ideas of this year's theme: rights, access, equality for all victims. Now therefore, I, Terry L. Wycombe, Mayor of the City of Rawlins, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim the week of April 23rd through the 29th, 2023 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week. In the City of Rawlins, Wyoming, we honor victims of all crimes and further extend our appreciation to the Rawlins Police Department Victim Assistance Program during this week and throughout the year for their vital services they perform for all victims.
And like it says, it's in honor of all victims and survivors in something tragic that happened in their life. It also has advocates, and would like to thank Austin and Tina for the work that they do, the support and guidance that they give to victims.
And so the people at home know, you need to tell us your name.
Julie Hahn.
Okay, thank you. Well, we certainly appreciate all the work that you do and taking care of people who are not at their finest hour. So thank you all very much. The next thing on our agenda is another proclamation, which is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, April 2023. Whereas sexual violence is a devastating and intolerable crime affecting men, women, and children of all race, age, cultures, economic situations, and abilities. And whereas the National Violence Against Women Prevention Center estimates that 1 in 5 adult women has been forcibly raped or at least once during her lifetime. And whereas sexual violence seriously affects our youth, with 1 out of every 3 girls and 1 out of every 6 boys being sexually assaulted before the age of 18. And whereas continued commitment is needed to ensure that all victims and survivors of sexual violence are treated with the dignity and respect that they deserve and afforded the support that they need to heal. Whereas to prevent future violation of our citizens, it is important that we foster greater public awareness of the causes and effects of sexual violence and commit to addressing this problem on every civic level. And whereas no one person, organization, agency, or community can eliminate sexual assault on their own, all must work together in eliminating perpetuation of rape and sexual assault. And whereas Carbon County Cove requests public support and assistance as it works towards a society where all people can live in peace, free from violence and exploitation. And whereas the vision of ending sexual violence can be a reality. And therefore I, Terry Wycombe, Mayor of Rawlins, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. In Rawlins, Wyoming, I urge all citizens to join together to prevent sexual assault. Thank you. Is Cove here? Would you? Yeah. Well, that's what I thought, but. Well, so the people at home know who works on their behalf. Tell us your name and kind of what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Jennifer Evans. I'm the executive director for Carbon County Cove. We usually have an event planned for this month, and we usually have handouts and some events going on, but unfortunately I don't have anything this late into the month to present to you. So, but I appreciate you recognizing April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Well, thank you for all the work you do. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next thing on our agenda is the presentation of the Community Builder Award for April of 2023. So I'll ask the members of the volunteer committee, Rawlins Volunteer Committee, to come up front and turn the floor over to you.
Honorable Mayor and Council, thank you. Give a brief background. And actually, this is a little over a year that we've been presenting this award to members of this community, and it's such a welcoming sight to see how much that people do for our community and how much love people really do have for Rawlins. So this is exciting. This is my favorite part of the meeting. No offense to anybody else, but the Community Builder Award is a monthly award the city presents to local individuals, businesses, and organizations for their volunteer service, sponsorship, promotion of programs and events, outstanding service in the interest of the city, and for other contributions significant to Rawlins' quality of life. So our volunteer committee met, and we would like to present the April 2023 Community Builder Award to Louis Espinoza Sr. And I believe Pam Thayer is going to say a few words about our award recipient this evening.
So he now has a new name, let alone labor of love that he's given to this community. He is now our stealth volunteer, because stealth is like they're quiet but mighty. I had the honor and the privilege, and I'm probably going to get choked up because I have worked with this gentleman for almost 18 years on behalf of DDA and other things, but it was a great time to go through and things. And so I asked him why he volunteers, and he said, well, we get a better community, and why not? And he was just adamant about that. But some things that I think people may have forgotten or don't even know is locally, state, and nationally, this gentleman, the city council for years and years, DDA, from drilling holes in sidewalks and putting bridges together, United Way. He was appointed by Governor Geringer, sorry, I put an R in there, Geringer, to be on the Wyoming Humanities Council for over 6 years. That program came out of Barnegan. There were a 21-person board, and because of him sitting on this board and appointed by the governor, we were picked Carbon County for a Barnegan program.
University of Wyoming Committee of Chicano Studies for putting a Spanish radio station in Laramie. Governor Friedenthal to a committee that he put together with 5 city council and 5 county commissioners across the state. He was appointed to that. And I can keep going. RC&D, he went to DC, Washington, DC in 2006. And RC&D is Resource Conservation and Development, and they were fighting to keep the funding for that. That was over 20 years ago. This man, Music in the Park, he went to Ron Kilgore and said, we should do music in the park. Funding for curb and gutter, I can keep going on. But Lewis, 37 years at the railroad, 3 vehicles he went through between driving back and forth at the railroad and coming back and forth in Cheyenne doing his volunteerism. And he even, and I'm going to share this, one paycheck, 2 weeks, 80 hours, got $9 on his railroad paycheck because he was spending so much time volunteering for this state. So, the Hill, or better known to him as the Phoenix, since 2004, his love of that Phoenix. Something that I don't think people realize is that is a labor of love, but there's been a lot of other players, and that's why I think that he creates these situations. I mean, the city has put money and resources in it. Union Pacific put money and water lines and resources. Steve Olson from Build Right, he would give everything to Lewis at cost. Like, he gave me an example. There were 11 crates of blocks, and because he talked to Steve, he got them at cost, and the list goes on. Eagle Scout projects. That hill has produced Eagle Scout projects and 4-H projects. And his paycheck for sitting here went to that hill. And then my funniest thing was, he called the hill the drive-up city council spot. That people could drive up and talk to him about city council issues, and they knew where to find him. I'm like, how often do you have a drive-up city council location? So, again, I could go on and on. Probably the last story is the kids. The little kids that started going by there with their parents in he called it a baby carriage, and grew up and saying, Mr. Espinoza, you're still up there, when they were in a carriage all the way to adults. And that's just a few stories he shared with me. So very honored to give him this award. And he is turning around and giving it to Boys and Girls Club. Lewis.
Thank you. Mary Wycombe, City Council. I know what you guys go through just being a council member. It takes a lot of thought. I know there was nights after I had talked to Pam, I was thinking of some of the other things that I never mentioned to her. You know, one of the things that I did do with Governor Friedenthal, and I met him before he actually became governor, how important it is of the cultures of the different people in Wyoming. And I used to be on a club called the Junta Club. We used to do Spanish dances and stuff for quite a few years. We finally shut down, but it was always hard to, raise money, things that we needed like tables, chairs, stuff like that to do that club. But the reason I was pushing for funding to help any of the cultures throughout the state of Wyoming came what's called the Wyoming Cultural Fund. That was had to do with if you want to do those type of events or whatever. The governor and the legislators, they put in $10 million in a trust, and anyone throughout Wyoming, if they want to do something like that, can do it. And where that kind of helps is what this when I was with the governor or whatever, there was 5 council members and 5 county commissioners. And we had to come up with ideas on what would happen if the oil and gas went out, which it was doing that up and down. And so we kind of worked together, and that's how the Wyoming Cultural Trust Fund came. And I was also working with the Arts Council, which is Simmons, I think, is the guy's name. He was the head of it, and the governor moved him to the trust to run that. And I was also doing things with the university and just driving to go to work in Cheyenne. I would stop off at the university and do things with the Chicano studies. And, well, then I'd take off, go to Cheyenne. Maybe I'd meet with the Arts Council. But it was that idea of being a council member, that idea of thinking outside the box. So I was trying to connect different things that were out there that could come to Rawlins. And I did bring a few programs here. One of them was the Born Again Project, and that turned out to be probably one of the best in the state. I think there was about 7 of them that they had throughout the state. And then with the Chicano studies, I brought a Cinco de Mayo to Rawlins, and we had it over at the Jeffrey Center with mariachis and things, and it was a nice turnout, and those were the type of things I was thinking, if we could get this and bring it over here, that's going to help, in sales tax revenue, stuff like that, people wanting to come to Rawlins, That's a good way to think if you get the chance, or, to connect things from out there to bring over here. And we could use it, Yeah. But anyway, thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I do miss it, but there's a time to go. Thank you.
We'd like to present you a big check, a little check. Bring the actual award is.
Step around here.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I'm gonna bring my boy, my.
Yep.
There you go.
Oh, these are some, I can't forget my grandkids. And they would help me up there on the hill to water.
I remember one day when your dog scared me. Had his dog tied to the trailer, and I'm talking to Lewis. Next thing, there's something licking my hand. It was his dog. About the trailer out.
Now, actually, could I ask if there's anybody else in this room who's also received the Community Builder Award? Could you raise your hand? Runs in the family.
Yeah.
Okay, cheese. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Lewis.
Thank you.
All right, the next thing on our agenda is Airport Board resignation. Do I hear a motion? Councilman Weisenberg?
I'd move to accept Aaron Durst's resignation from the Rawlins-Carbon County Airport Board effective immediately and direct staff to advertise the vacancy.
Second it.
Been a motion made and seconded to accept Aaron Durst's resignation from the Rawlins-Carbon County Airport Board effective immediately and direct staff to advertise the vacancy. Is there any discussion? Councilman Weisenberg?
The only discussion I had is, so everybody's aware, is the board positions are in the city's favor this time and not the county. So it swaps over 2025, I believe. So they are all city appointed members right now. So that's the only question I had that I took to legal earlier.
Oh, okay. Any further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is city council reports. The Board of Adjustments is Councilman Seeloff. Do you have a report for us?
Our next meeting's gonna be Thursday night, so I won't have anything till after that.
Okay. The next report is Carbon County Council of Governments. I'm on that board, and we have not had a meeting since the last time I reported, so I have nothing new. The next report will be the DDA Main Street Program. Vice Mayor Sanger sits on that board and is chairman, I believe.
Yes. So we have three things that we have going on right now. Our Business Innovation Hub, they've rebranded the hub in that building, and they've been assisting consistently about between 2 and 5 entrepreneurs a week with resources and information for their businesses. The second thing is Summerfest is going to be Saturday, only Saturday, July 8th of 2023. And the last thing, we now taken possession of the Ferguson building, and we're working on options for funding that building and renovating that building. And that's what I have.
All right, thank you. Next thing on is the Rawlins Planning Commission, which Councilman Weisenberg sits on that board.
Yeah, we had a meeting last week discussing, it's on the agenda later. It's for a new business to come to town. It's just more so of warehousing their delivery service pretty much throughout Carbon County to deliver appliances strictly, and they deal strictly for Home Depot. So it'll be on the agenda a little bit further down in new business, I believe, for council to approve a special use permit for the building is going to be at the where they're going to be is Rawlins Plaza down there, kind of right by Tractor Supply,
where Safeway was.
Yeah.
Okay, that it?
And then there will be a presentation from members of the commission for their annual report in a little bit too.
Okay.
So.
Cool. All right. Next thing is the Urban Systems Committee. Councilman Garner sits on that board.
We had a meeting yesterday. We went over the update on the pedestrian underpass, kind of reviewed kind of a time frame. There seems like the earliest might be 2025 to kick off the project. Right now they are, if I remember correctly, they're going out to bid for engineers to do the engineering on the project. So we got a little update on that. May 16th will be the annual update, so though there's going to be a little more info from there. And then we did election of chair and vice chair, and we kept Judy Dixon as the chair and Blaine Schumacher as vice chair. And we went over they want to bring something to the council to review why the urban systems is, if I remember this correctly, regulated as an ordinance versus a resolution. So that will be on May 16th. They'll talk more in depth about that and go into the details of it. So that is it. And then our next meeting is November. It's going to be November 16th. If there's anything, we talked about topics for our next, for like future meetings, and some of those topics were, I'm going to draw a blank here. Sorry. I'll try to remember at the next meeting. I'll get my notes for that and I'll bring it back up. But for the one that's another 6 months out or 7 months out, if there's anything in between that we would like that we kind of forgot to put on that, I'll bring it up at the next meeting, give you the list of topics we want to discuss for the future meetings, and see if there's anything we missed, or maybe there was something, because we talked about snow removal and that type of stuff. So anyway.
Okay, thank you. All right, next thing on our agenda is a report from the Wyoming Game and Fish Department regarding feeding of animals. And so I will Turn the floor over to Daryl. Are you here alone, Daryl?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yep.
don't feel lonely. We're on
Yeah,
your
oh,
side.
I'm not lonely.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Wycombe, City Council. Thanks for having me here tonight. My name is Daryl Lutz, and I'm the boss biologist, right? Yes. Yeah. I got promoted tonight when I got to town, so
It
that's always a
happens
good
here.
thing. My paycheck is like $9 every 2 weeks, so. Promotion's great. It's pretty humbling for me to be in a room with a lot of good people taking care of people of Rawlins tonight, and that's really commendable, the folks that were here and the issues you're dealing with. And what I'm going to talk to you about tonight is taking care of the other citizens of Rawlins, and that's your wildlife. But let me start out by telling you that Rawlins is near and dear to my heart. It's kind of my second hometown. Both my parents and sets of grandparents lived here. My grandpa on my mom's side was a railroader. Big surprise, right? My grandpa on my dad's side, Grandpa Lutz, worked in the old penitentiary as a warden and oversaw the shop that made our license plates. So I have a lot of roots in Rawlins, and I'm proud of it. So it's great for me to be here. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what we understand about winter feeding. And let me predicate the information that I'm telling you with, and I just want you to know that I've been doing this for just south of 40 years. Most of that time has been spent within the Game and Fish Department focusing on mule deer management in Wyoming and across the West, as I participated in a West-wide mule deer working group. So while we have a lot to learn, I certainly learn every day more about wildlife and what it takes to manage them. We have a pretty good understanding what winter feeding means to mule deer in particular and to cervids in general. So I'm not controlling the PowerPoint, am I?
Oh, no.
So let me just give you a little bit of history. We've been, we and wildlife management agencies, not just Wyoming Game and Fish Department, has been feeding or attempting to feed wildlife across the West since the 1920s. In the 1940s, winter feeding studies started in earnest and showed that mortality among fed deer was oftentimes higher than fed deer, non-fed deer. Since then, other studies have shown there's no significant increase in survival of fed deer, and that work has been done primarily in Colorado and Utah, at least most recently. And of course, we all know that feeding concentrated deer results in overbrowsing, habitat degradation, further dependence oftentimes on supplemental feed to their own detriment, and increased disease transmission. And certainly in today's world, disease transmission is becoming more and more important. And so as a result of that, many state wildlife agencies adopted a no-feed policy for deer. And certainly that's the case for Wyoming Game and Fish Department here in our home state. So why? The biology of feeding. Unlike elk, mule deer have highly specialized digestive systems. You know, for as common as mule deer are across our state, mule deer are highly specialized animals. In other words, we call them habitat specialists. And if you think about a mule deer morphology, the shape of their head, they have a really, really fine nose. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is that they have to select for particular plant species that are sometimes hard to get. Not only do they select for particular plant species, but we've learned that they also select for particular parts of the plant and even particular parts of a plant. We've observed in mountain mahogany communities, for example, that they'll eat this portion of a shrub, but they won't eat another portion, and they come to that portion of the shrub year after year after year. They know a lot more about what they eat than we do. And they don't tolerate dietary changes at all well, and that's at the crux of why winter feeding is oftentimes unsuccessful. So they require such a delicate balance of bacteria in their gut that many mule deer on supplemental feed simply die with full stomachs of undigestible or indigestible food. And that's not just folks feeding them alfalfa or grass hay or things that other food items that we might think are appropriate, like corn or birdseed. But it also includes things like, I spent part of my career in Casper, and they have one of the biggest urban populations of mule deer probably in the state. We've seen mule deer fed French fries, buttered pretzels, Big Macs, and a whole host of other things. And of course, they simply just can't deal with those foreign food sources. So just go back real quickly, if you would, that last statement. So they simply can't adapt to changes in their diet efficiently enough to benefit from our generosity and concern. And what I want to expound on that is if feeding mule deer were successful, we would have to start it so early in the fall before we know that we have or are going to have a bad winter, that it just becomes impractical, even if it did work, and it often doesn't. By the way, is everybody tired of winter? Well, I am. I usually admire Mother Nature, but I'm not too happy with her this year. I was talking to Myra earlier. I don't know how many of you were here in the winter of 83, 84. I don't think any of us were here. No, in the winter of 49. But I think maybe by now you've heard, at least in Carbon County and in other counties in the state, they are saying, based on snow depth and the number of sub-zero days that we've had, that this winter exceeded the winter, in terms of severity, the winter of 1949. It certainly has surpassed the winter of 83, 84, which was monumental. This winter has been epic. So a lot of loss, as you all know. So this idea of the gut bomb. I did bring in this publication, Death by Feeding. It's on the back table. I would ask that if you haven't had an opportunity to take a look at it, it is a good treatise on what we know about feeding. But the gut bomb is nothing more than a deer trying to deal with foreign foods or foods that they are not adapted to. The flora in their guts simply cannot digest the feeds that we oftentimes think is good for them. Things like, corn and grain, birdseed, hay, apples, and the whole list of things that I mentioned earlier. High carb foods like corn can cause an overgrowth of bacteria in the stomach that produces a toxic acidosis. It's a buildup of lactic acid that causes inflammation in the gut system, creates abscesses and ulcers in the stomach wall, and that lactic acid is eventually absorbed into their bloodstream and their system, and it simply kills them. So again, mule deer oftentimes die with full stomachs. What are some of the other considerations that we think about with concentrating wildlife and concentrating wildlife as an artifact of trying to provide them with feed? And that it creates artificial densities and provides opportunities for the transmission of diseases and parasites. And probably today, the most important disease that we think about in mule deer is chronic wasting disease. Perhaps you've heard about it by now. We have some of it here in town from the work that the town has done and that we've tested, though it's not very high, thank goodness. We also in Rawlins have identified adenovirus, which is a fairly novel virus. Again, diseases are becoming more and more important with wildlife management. We've documented Asian chewing louse throughout the state and here in Rawlins. And there's others like epizootic hemorrhagic disease or EHD or blue tongue. Certainly winter mortality could help control by keeping deer densities at more normal levels, those catastrophic disease outbreaks. Predators. Whenever we concentrate prey species, we're creating what we call or term a predator sink. And so we're going to probably attract things like mountain lions and coyotes and other predators that see mule deer as a prey item. We're all aware that whenever wildlife and people live in close proximity to each other, there's always going to be some conflict, and increased conflict with predators, not just with people, but also predators taking the little critters that we call our pets, right? Happens fairly frequently, and this, of course, is a dramatic experience. Deer in town, we all know this to be true, impact the shrubs and trees that we spend a lot of money, time, and resources to try to beautify our homes and our lawns and gardens. So whenever they are concentrated in somebody's yard, there's always going to be those shrubs, flowers, petunias, whatever they might be, that they're also going to eat and select for. Probably a couple of the most important things is vehicle deer collisions and accidents become more and more of a concern. And I think some of you, I know that one of our game wardens here in town just in the past 2 or 3 weeks has been receiving more calls about aggressive deer. Especially in a winter like this, they do, not just in artificial situations like in town, but even on native winter ranges, they become aggressive with each other because they're sick. They're at their lowest nutritional plane and they're vying for every calorie that they can get. So we know of several instances where deer will run people back into their homes. Several instances where people will actually paw at people to back them off. I have an acquaintance in Casper that was gored by a buck and wound up in the emergency room. So they can become aggressive, and they particularly become aggressive this time of year as food becomes increasingly less available and they're feeling sicker and sicker. Again, they compete fiercely when food was limited, and that's what causes some of that aggression. Oh, go back.
Oh, sorry.
And regardless the amount of feed provided, the biggest, strongest, and healthiest deer, which are usually dominant does and bucks, exclude the truly needy individuals, the fawns. In a winter like this, we lose the fawns and we lose the older deer. So some deer get little or no food while others gorge themselves and get too much. And too much of a supposed good thing can also jeopardize their survival due to complications from dietary shock or this acidosis that I talked about earlier. So in the end, we all have the best interest of wildlife in mind. For goodness sakes, most of us live in Wyoming because of the wildlife resource that we have in this state. I've heard it said that wildlife in Wyoming, it's because of the wildlife in Wyoming, we're the best outdoor laboratory on the continent. Agencies in Western North America have conducted supplemental feeding of wildlife for about 100 years, so we have some experience. And we know at best feeding has a very limited nutritional benefit, often negated by the undesirable, even catastrophic impacts that we've talked about. And it's clear that feeding mule deer violates the most basic principle of population regulation within natural systems. While Mother Nature may not be very kind to us this year, she often knows what she's doing, and I have to admit, she probably knows what she's doing with the winter mortality that we've seen this winter, but I still don't like it. Winter feeding for mule deer is successful in making people who are compassionate, and we all are, feel better about what they're doing, but seldom are there any benefits of winter feeding. And then one of the most important ways to help big game, particularly mule deer, is also the easiest. If you're feeding, just stop. And if you're not, don't start. So there's a few resources. Again, I've got this on the back table for you. This is an article out of Montana. And then there's quite a few scientific publications that are available if you have the need for some more drier reading, but certainly will paint the picture as I've described it tonight. So I'm hoping I've generated maybe some thoughts or questions. If we have time, I'm more than happy to try to answer whatever I can.
We have a pretty good herd of deer on south side where I live. That's, over on the other side of the tracks and whatnot. And some of them, one of them killed my dog, so I'm the wrong guy to, I hate them in town. But, some of them are so sick, they have this really slick, really dark hair. And I've noticed that those are the ones that raise heck with all the neighbor dogs and chase the neighbors and whatnot. And I don't know, is that a particular illness? Or
It could be the impact of a parasite load that's causing them to lose their guard hairs, so they rub them off. In all likelihood, it's nothing more than deer on a negative they're all on a negative nutritional plane. In other words, they starve through the winter. That's just the way they make a living. They make a living with the fat that they bring on their back from summer and fall ranges. But in all likelihood, those are deer that are just starving to death and they just don't feel good.
They don't act the same.
They get aggressive.
And they are very aggressive.
You know, and the other thing that I want to point out is that deer in town, we know based on some work that has been done that while I saw 4 deer just cross the street over here by the old Buy Right store as I circled the block to park. And they look calm, right? Deer generally are pretty calm in town. Do you agree? They're not. They actually are quite stressed. They get used to many of the things that they're dealing with in town, but they're still pretty stressed. Their cortisol levels are elevated, heart rates are usually elevated. They don't do well. So not only are they stressed, but they're also not eating the right things. So they just don't do well in town.
We didn't have a lot of deer, and then one of the storms might have been 84 or whatever. It drove the deer in town, and then we didn't have that problem until our neighbors, they'd graze through once in a while and whatever. And then the neighbors started feeding them. Of course, he left, and of course, they still think that's their neighborhood. But
Yeah.
I noticed over the years that the ones that moved to town were afraid of you because they're in your yard. But now the ones that were born in your backyard, that's their yard.
A little more acclimated.
And they
yeah.
get way more aggressive. And they've been now in town long enough where this is their town.
It is, and we do have what we call a resident population. And I think I'm right. I think Mayor Wykeham's right. It was 83, 84 when Deer Town really increased.
Mm-hmm.
That's not unique just to Rawlins, Green River,
Sure.
Rock Springs, and other communities
But
experience
they go
the
where
same.
the food is.
They go where their winter range probably once was. It's amazing that when was I-80 built, in the 70s? I think, the early 70s? It's amazing to look at collared mule deer and pronghorn and how they move from, for example, Green Mountain or Crooks Mountain or even South Pass. They know to go south and they hit the interstate and they can't cross it, so they go east and west. They still want to go south.
I see.
So they're going to where they somehow know winter ranges once were.
Yeah.
We typically like living in those winter ranges because they're typically more mild. Although I don't know why Rawlins.
So given your experience and time doing this job, what have you found to be the best solution for too many deer in a city? Because we have tried no feeding, but you always have those people who are compassionate.
Yeah.
And then we also tried for a time to cull. What have you found that works?
Yeah, so you're not the only municipality that has tried the culling approach, and we still have several that are. Certainly, getting folks to quit feeding is number one. But I would encourage you not to shy away from culling. I don't know how else we can decrease populations in town without doing that. I can tell you that some folks have asked us why we can't just trap and transplant them. And at the end of the day, that results in the same thing as culling.
Mm-hmm.
They just can't survive if you take them out of the habitats that they've learned and put them somewhere new. They die anyway.
Well, then you transmit disease also that way.
Correct. Yeah. So I don't know that anybody's found that silver bullet, but I think removal is one that needs to be left on the table, and try to get folks to quit feeding them. Try to get them to quit it. There is some attraction. So we know that deer come into town. We know deer live in town and don't leave. But we also know in these winters, look at the number of antelope that were on the north end of town this winter.
And elk even.
And elk above the Cliff Motel. Yeah. First time I think in my lifetime I've ever heard of elk in town.
No, I've
There
seen
is an
I've seen
attraction.
elk in Rawlins before.
You have?
Yeah, I think in '83 was the last time they was here. All of our hill was covered with elk.
Yeah.
Our hill?
All this side of our hill.
Yeah.
But I don't
This side
remember
of
them
our
ever
hill.
in town.
And they was down in, they'd come across the interstate down in the south side of town.
Well, that crazy
They-
buggers.
Actually, the game and fish came in and running back out of here.
Well, learn something new every day.
Yeah.
So feeding just to decrease or minimize that attraction, I think, is step one. And I know you've tried.
With the winter kill that we're having, the issue of this year, what's the projected loss throughout this area?
Let me
Not
just,
just city, but area.
countywide maybe?
Yes.
So let me start with pronghorn. We had 33 antelope collared in the red desert herd, so areas 60, 61, and 64 going into winter. As of last week, we had lost 16 of them, so that's better than 50% mortality. So we're pretty confident that we've lost in the neighborhood of probably around 4,000 to 5,000 antelope just in that one herd. Mule deer have fared a little bit better. We also have 200 and some deer collared in the Green Mountain and Crooks Mountain country. And as I said, fawns and the older age deer are the first to succumb to winter conditions and starvation. And the last I looked, we had lost about 40% of the fawns. And adult mule deer had lost about 20 to 25% or thereabouts, so that's a little bit above normal. Elk, I've always said that if we start seeing elk starve to death, we won't have a mule deer left. Thankfully, I'm wrong, because we have also been seeing elk starve to death, but elk populations are still doing pretty well. Speaking of elk, some of you may ask, well, you know, elk and deer are all in the same family. They're in the deer family. They're cervids. So how in the dickens can you feed elk in northwest Wyoming at Jackson, and they do fine? Well, they're just a different critter. If you've read any of the articles that we've published in the past couple of weeks, you've probably seen me being quoted as saying, elk can eat a pencil and still get something out of it. And I believe it to be true. They're tough, they're hardy, and their gut systems are just better adapted to different food sources. Same for white-tailed deer, but to a lesser extent. But winter's been difficult.
Seen a lot of kill through working in Wamsutter area.
Yeah.
And you've seen deer come into places you've not seen deer come into also. It's like,
Yeah.
so
And have
know
that
it's
kind of
affected.
blank look on their face. And yeah, it's been tough. It's been really rough.
So how long do you think it'll be for them to recover year-wise?
It'll be interesting to see, you know, after the winter of 83, 84, we saw pronghorn populations statewide come back within about 3 years, and deer probably a year or two behind that, but fairly quickly. The thing that's different about this, about now compared to then, what is that, it is 40 years ago, is that we have gone through years and years and years of drought, coupled with not just this severe winter, but 3 others. And so I think drought is going to have impacted habitats to an extent that recovery may be prolonged more than what we saw in 83, 84, but time will tell.
We actually had a moose in town once and a bear. And
Welcome to Wyoming.
yeah,
We've had a couple bears in town.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, we've had bobcats here.
yeah, mountain lions.
yeah,
They
of
came to eat
course.
the deer.
Yeah,
That's where we live.
that's where we live. That's why we love it.
So where do you live?
I live in Lander.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I got the good fortune to be able to move there from Glen Rock 12 years ago. Yeah.
That's
I moved
where
up.
I'm from.
You're from Glen Rock? Oh, sorry. No, it's a good place to raise kids. Loved being there, but yeah, in Lander. And Rawlins is part of my world again, so
It's the best part.
I think
Don't tell anybody
it's a
else.
great part.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the benefit of a hard winter, right? It reminds everybody what winters in Wyoming are like as they pass through on I-80, and hopefully they just keep on going.
Why do you live here? I've been asking. It's because you don't.
Yeah, it's amazing. You don't have to get very far off the interstate, and it's an awesome place.
Yep.
Anything
you,
else
Darryl.
I can answer? Anything else I can do, just holler. Byron knows how to get a hold of me. And if we can help you in any way with suggestions with ordinances or what have you, we're more than happy to help any way we can.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next thing on our agenda is a Board of Planning and Zoning update to the council. So I'll just have y'all come up.
I'm Janita Calton, and on behalf of the Board of Zoning and, what are we? Planning and Zoning. On behalf of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'd like to make a report on our 2021 activities. A while ago. The board rescinded Title 19. We had a total of 1 zone change, 1 preliminary plat application, 1 final plat application, 1 special use permit application, 1 residential infill application, 1 boundary line adjustment application.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm Jeff Haskins, newly elected chairperson of the board. So, for the 2022, we worked on modifying our bylaws, amendments to Title 16 RV parks, and did a complete review of Title 16 moving forward. We made amendments to Title 18 and amendments in Title 19, specifically for RV parks and accessory buildings. We established 2 new businesses, 307 Horse Racing Incorporated and a small engine repair shop. They're currently working on establishing 2 more new businesses in town. Election of officers in March. We had a total of 3 applications for a zone change, 2 special use permit applications, and 1 boundary line adjustment and 1 residential infill. And that's basically what we've been up to the last year, and we hope to have a busy year this year. If we have any other questions, or?
Well, I'm just curious, where are we at with the Chapter 19 thing? I don't know where we're at with all of that.
As I understand it, it's back in legal's hands right now.
Okay.
There is a meeting tomorrow afternoon of representatives from Planning and Zoning, Board of Adjustments, Lou and I, to finish up the review and hopefully get it to both of the commissions and the council.
When is this?
Tomorrow afternoon or Thursday?
Tomorrow afternoon.
Or is it Thursday?
No, this is an in-house.
Oh, okay.
It's not a meeting. It's 1 rep from each board and me and Lou.
Okay.
When was that discussed, just out of curiosity?
It was originally just me and Lou that were gonna go over it, and then he asked if he could bring a couple folks, so it was very ad hoc.
Was our board chair?
I was not aware, yes.
We weren't aware of that.
Yeah, it's not official, it's
Okay.
just
Oh.
another set of eyes, we're not, like, yeah.
Okay.
We're just kind of wondering who that set of eyes is going to be.
I don't know, because Lou
Yeah.
is the one who asked if he could bring some folks, so I just said, yeah, I'll provide the conference room. But we're reviewing it tomorrow afternoon, either way.
And then what's the rest of the timetable, Wendy?
If we can get a final on that one, hopefully, well, Board of Adjustments will not see it on Thursday, I can guarantee that. But maybe by their next meetings, we'll be able to have them ready.
Okay.
We might have to have a special meeting, because our next meeting will be 3 months.
I definitely think it'd be worth it.
Yeah, we'll have to have a special meeting. We'd like to have Chapter 19 back in effect by summer, but summer's almost here.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's getting here quick.
that's a big push on it.
It's a very large
So,
project,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and Lou has worked extremely hard and done a good job on that.
I'd like to, I don't know if Lou is here or not, but
He is on his way.
I'd like our chair to go to that meeting though. That's a representative of our board, so Jeff, if you could make that, I mean, I'm just.
It's at 3 o'clock tomorrow up
I get off.
in my conference room.
Okay. I will find you at 3 o'clock tomorrow.
Thank you. I mean, it's just a good representation of our board to have our chair or vice chair there with the awareness that's, been going on with Title 19. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Is there any other questions or comments for these folks? I'd like to thank you for your hard work. It's not an easy job, and as soon as you get it right, things will change. It's a dynamic situation, and
You get a raise next time.
yeah.
That's why I keep saying, get another zero added to it and move the decimal
Yeah.
point. Okay.
Yep.
Pick up a deal, we just walk
You
in.
get 2 zeros.
Lou just walked in.
Thanks. All right, next thing on our agenda is city manager and staff reports, and Tom, I'll turn the floor over to you.
All right, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight to begin, I'd like to have Pam Thayer come up. She'll give us the council a quick update on the Pink Hotel.
Sweetness.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. So I want to talk brownfields as a whole. We've been doing a lot of work in the last year on brownfield projects. So there are 4 things in the hopper right now. We did apply for a grant a year ago, did not receive it, but the state came back in and offered us some sites. So we will be having assessment 1 and 2, just basic assessments on 4 properties in Rawlins, including the Pink Hotel. They have just released, a contractor has been hired, so pretty much the city will act as the go-between the property owners of those sites and the state. We don't have any of the funding. It's all being paid through the state. We're just kind of initiating property owners, getting in the door and everything, but the Pink Hotel. So that'll give true ownership, and then it'll lead to what kind of brownfields, whether it's lead paint, asbestos, all that. So the Pink Hotel is planned for assessment 1 and 2 on that, and that will happen. They're hoping, I haven't heard from the contractor yet. They were awarded about 30 days ago, and so they're putting their schedule together. So Cindy Martinez from DEQ did say that Ayers and Associates, I'm sure that's public now. Ayers and Associates got the contract, and they will be doing they'll do, I think it's a total of 8 locations in Carbon County and 4 in Rawlins, and that will be the Pink Hotel, the Ferguson, and the Pine Street, which the city owns, and then the Strand. And then Yvonne has some other ones in the county that are being happened. And so they'll have that contract. So that'll be the first thing that'll happen to the Pink Hotel. Then Cindy Martinez came back to me and said, hey, we have another pot of money, and we can do some feasibility opportunities and do some ideas of assisted living at the Pink Hotel. Would you guys be interested in 2 to 3 of these feasibility opportunities to see if it would be feasible to hold have an assisted living? So the Pink Hotel is getting that also. Check. So that is a feasibility study. Again, that is, we will just oversee, be the conduit to get them in and out. They will hold that money. We won't be writing any checks. Again, they'll hire the contractor. So that's supposed to happen probably late summer, early fall. And the reason they put that is after we're hoping the assessments are done. So the first trigger is the assessments, then the feasibility studies for 3 properties. And then in the next 45 days, the grant that we submitted for this new round, so that's another $500,000 of brownfields money is coming out. And we just put a wide variety of facilities, and we can change them up. I've been working with Ariel and Brian. We've been getting a matrix together, which would be the best ones if we receive this grant. I think we have a really good shot. So we have that coming in from brownfields. And then the last thing, which is really exciting, is I got a call from Cindy Martinez about 45 days ago and said, hey, would you like some cleanup money? And I said, yeah, I know we have to write a grant and wait another year. No. There could be some cleanup money, like tear down money. You need to call Greg at the United States EPA Region 8 in Colorado. So I immediately sent him an email and got it back that Montana has been chosen for 2 surrogate sites. They're going to see how those go. And then keep our fingers crossed that we may get anywhere from $500 to $1 million. That one we would have to manage to maybe take down a building. So a lot of exciting, I mean, this whole brownfields program has exploded in the last probably 6 to 9 months, last 6 months. And so this is going to be a great thing for the city of Rawlins. So lots of brownfield stuff. Wow. And Pink Hotel's written all over every time.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, then we have to come up with a plan, because if we would get this final 4th tear down money, we have to own any facility that's taken down. They will not give that money to a private. So that is my update. Any questions on the Pink Hotel or any of these 4 brownfields granting opportunities?
What kind of problems can you foresee us the city becoming the owner of that Pink Motel?
None.
Okay.
And I have a little scenario. Lou and I and Ariel and Andrea, before she left, I had a whole scenario on how we could puzzle piece it together, so we would own it, but then we would get it developed, so then we could resell it, and it would be a win-win. I've also happened to talk to a banker I know, because saying, would this work? Because, you know, me and my crazy ideas. Basically saying that if the bank, because the bank basically owns the note on that facility, has a lien on it, so if we would push the bank, and again, this is all entry-level ideas, but just my crazy ideas that might work, is if they would give it to the city, the bank would give it to the city. And how that would trigger is, and I asked him, I said, have you ever had a lien on a property, and then you have a municipality come back, not in Rawlins, but just for say, this would happen, and you wouldn't want to do that. Maybe you only have 500,000, 600,000, and you would have to clean it up or take care of it, or you could just give it to someone and then forgive the loan and the lien. And he said, that has been done by banks before. So that kind of plays in that, and then we could turn around, get the cleanup grant or get this grant, and then turn around and sell it for a mere money, but then it would actually help because we would improve property taxes, we'd get it cleaned up. There's a lot of trigger points. So there's about 20 steps to that really quick thing I just told you, but again, just putting pieces together to make some amazing, I mean, brownfield projects are just the way to go. And even this year, I mean, they just released another $160 million in that brownfields funding. There's so much money out there between now and like 2025, 2026 that we could do a ton of projects. And we did a great, I think, Terry, you were there, we did a great open house with them that one morning late last fall, and took them around and said we could do this with this property, we could do, and I know that Region 8, the Colorado people, besides the Cheyenne people, Cindy and her crew, were just very, very pleased with what they saw and the thoughts that the city of Rawlins has for brownfields money.
It was encouraging to me to hear what they had to say, that, yeah, a lot of possibilities there, and they're very positive towards it, so.
Yeah.
So awesome job, Pam.
Well, thanks. It's teamwork. It's everybody working. Everybody works together. All of us working together. Ariel and Andrea and Lou and Brian and Yvonne, and it's a teamwork. We all have to work together.
Yep.
Chris.
We used to have the meeting for dangerous building.
Funny.
And stuff. Haven't seen a meeting.
We're getting that set up. I think we're trying for the next couple weeks. I brought that up. With all this going on, I wanted to let the dangerous building committee, I went back. I talked to Chief Ward last week, and we're setting up. So we're on.
I'd like to attend that again. If I can possibly throw some dates out that would work maybe too, if that'll work.
Yeah, Chief Ward and I talked about it last week, and he's just getting it set up. So, yeah, absolutely. We're on it.
Awesome.
Okay?
Thank you.
And then the last thing I just wanted to touch base is, just to update you guys is, I did reach out to a contractor to install the bricks around the clock, and he's like, a little more warmer weather, and we'll get those bricks back installed. I think I talked about that right at the beginning of the year, but I just wanted to say we're moving forward. And then I did talk to Tyrell at Parks about the fountain and replacing the what's the pieces of the fountain to make a, planter, thank you. And he came up with a great idea. There's an area kind of over by the Wyoming that has a drip system already that's part of the irrigation, because we didn't want to put it in if we had to water and everything. And he's like, oh, we could put it here. And so Tyrell and I worked on some things last week on the park. So I think that's it on my updates. Daryl.
What were the 4 projects?
So the assessment 1 and 2, the most basic level is going to be the Pine Street, the Pink Hotel, the Ferguson, and then the Strand. And I know Yvonne's working with your mom on the Strand portion, I do believe. Yeah.
So Pine, Ferguson, Strand, Pink Hotel,
Yeah.
and that's the base. That's the.
It's called assessment 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any questions? Let me know in Brownfields.
Exciting.
It is really exciting. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Okay, Tom?
Okay. As you know, as spring is here, it's budget season. We were able to meet last Tuesday night and go over some budget issues last week. Our intent with the budget is to continue to work on that and to have a draft out to the council by May 5th is our hopeful date on a draft. Then we'd like to do the first reading of that on Wednesday, May 10th of the following week, which would be a special meeting. The reason for the special meeting is we will get in depth as to everything, within the budget, and it'll take more time than what we'd want to spend in a regular council meeting. So
At 6. Do you have a time?
we were thinking 5:30 on that.
On which day?
May 10th, which I believe is a Wednesday. The planning and zoning was, they meet on the 9th, so we were thinking to do it the next night. And then with that, we would do the second reading of it at the second council meeting in May on May 16th. We would do the second reading of that. And then we would have 3 weeks between that council meeting and the first meeting in June, because the way that the calendar falls, we'll have that extra week. And then we will do the third and final reading of the budget on June 5th. Both the 16th, the second reading, and the third and final reading will be during the council meeting itself, but the first one will be a special meeting. So anyway, if you could save those dates. Tomorrow night, we will hear from the nonprofits. They will come in with budget requests. I would like to announce that we have our Adopt a Park out, and how that works is similar to Adopt a Street, but we will look for volunteers. You can go out to the website, our website, and find more information on it. But we will look for volunteers that will adopt a park. That'll help us to clean up and to do projects in our city parks. This week we received our city view for the spring and summer edition. That should be mailed out to all the homes in Rawlins this week if they haven't received it. If you do not receive one, it is either on the website, you could read it, or we have copies of it at City Hall and also at the Rec Center. Should be able to pick those up. The only other thing to report, just for council information, is I will be out Friday of this week for a medical appointment. Just so the council knows, so that's my report.
Okay, is there anything else? That's it? Okay. So the next thing on our agenda is direction from the city council to the city manager and city attorney. There's just a couple of things I want to say. One thing is the coming up in June, we need to change the first council meeting in June to Monday, the June 5th, as WHAM summer convention is starting Wednesday, the 7th at 9 a.m. in Cody. Will that work for everybody?
What day? June 4th?
June 5th.
5th?
It's supposed to be on the 4th, but, or the 6th, excuse me, but we're gonna move it back to the 5th because of WHAM.
Oh, okay, so it's already decided at June 5th?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the next meeting that we will have to move, July 4th, of course, is coming along. And so we will move the first meeting to July 5th, as Tuesday is July 4th. Will that work for everybody? If it won't, say so. And then don't forget the special work session that's scheduled for Saturday, April 29th. It's at 10 a.m. at Fire Station number 2 for the repeat of the WHAM boot camp. We will invite all the other towns from the county to send their council members. We can have up to 30 individuals for that class. We're gonna do it on a first come, first served basis. But Blaine was nice enough to offer up the Fire Station number 2 for that training. I think it'll be awesome.
25th at what time?
It's the 29th.
29th.
Yeah,
Time?
it's gonna start at 10 o'clock. It'll probably be over around 4 o'clock. Now, this should do all of our mandatory training that we have to have by the middle of next year. And that mandatory training is, it's important that we get it, because if we don't have it, we won't be eligible for state or federal grants, for one thing. New state law. Anyway, it's from 10 o'clock to 4:30. The 2 guys that are gonna be teaching it are the same ones that were in Cheyenne. And then they're going to try to include the Department of Audit, so we can have that financial component. So the goal is that we will be the first council in the state to be certified, and we don't have to worry about all that last minute stuff next year. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. Is there anything else from anybody? Councilman Garner?
On the training, since I can't make that day, I'll try to find something that's close, or try to piggyback off another city or town that's close. If they require money, would it be possible to do like what we're doing for the council, to get money to go to that as well?
The only other training that I know that's gonna be available in this way is going to be done through WHAM. At the summer one, they're going to cover a couple of things that they didn't cover to start with. But to be quite honest with you, it's all up in the air, and I don't know of any other town that's gonna do what we're gonna do.
Right. I'll just keep an eye out and see, and reach out to Justin and those guys and see if they can keep me up to date, if they see anything.
If I may, Mayor?
Yes.
I went to WHAM for clerks, and they did, because I met Justin, and he said that they are, Justin Stilling from WHAM, and he said everything that we're going to be covering is also going to be covering, like the mayor said, in Cody. So you'll need to attend in Cody.
Okay.
The agenda has been forwarded to all the council members who are going, so it is on the agenda for both training, the audit and the boot camp that was covered before.
Okay, then, and I guess my next question, if I could I can remote into that training, correct?
You can, but I think you have to be present to be counted so you can sign in and whatnot.
Have to find legalities.
We follow up or just ask them if that's possible, if
sure
we can do it remotely.
Well, when you talk to Justin, ask him.
So the one.
Well, that's who I talked to Wham to line this training up, and they're well aware of it. As a matter of fact, they're going to try to the component that comes from the Department of Audit, because there were some things that weren't covered in Cheyenne. They're going to do a more robust one here, and it'll be like we'll be the first people to hear their new training module, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Any questions about that from anybody? And we are going to allow encourage actually the citizens to Zoom into this also, so that they'll have a better understanding of what our rules are, what we can do, what we can't do, how does government work, all that sort of thing. I think it'll be a positive training situation, so. Anyway, is there any further questions about that? Okay, does anybody have anything else?
Is this for the just direction?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I closed my board docs. I was just going to give an update on the Code of Ethics update. I have gotten that documentation over to Wendy, and Tanya and I are going to sit down and review it a little more. She had some concerns from it last time, so we're going to go over it. Wendy's going over it, and then we're going to compile everything together, review it, and then give it back to Wendy, see if anything that we've added needs to be adjusted. We'll highlight what is adjusted in there, and then we'll bring that back and present it.
Okay.
So just an update for the citizens and everybody here.
Hopefully you can hold off to bring it back until after this training, so might take a shortcut, you know what I'm saying? Like there might be things in here that might help, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
And it's like right around the corner anyway, but. Okay, anything else? Councilman Weisberg.
I discussed with legal possibly having a resolution put together for WHAM again. The one that I brought forward the first time was the one for the dangerous buildings, just piggybacking right to the House bill that did not pass.
151.
151,
Yeah.
153, whatever.
151.
Yeah. So, anyways, the other thing is last meeting I talked about a possible resolution for the fact that some of the projects on specific purpose tax, and this isn't going to fall just for obviously what Rawlins might endure too, but I'm having her look into some laws and stuff on specific purpose tax if we have to do every project, if we don't have the funding. Luckily, I don't have the paper, but I have the ballot question, and luckily Rawlins, the ballot question does not say a specific amount per project. So we dodge a bullet there with the cost of inflation, but I'd like her to look at the laws of possibly bonding after the fact, and or how it works to maybe not complete all projects on that list, which I don't like the idea of because the citizens voted on that. But when there's an inflation rate of 7% or more every year annually, we are not going to get those done with the 12 million, a little over 12 million that we have been allocated from the voters. So I'd like to see maybe a resolution to take the WHAM to see if they could bite on something like that too, to see if the laws are specific saying we have to do every project or bonding. So just so you all are aware, that's, I have legal looking into that, and if, I'd like some support on that so we can take that to WAM possibly if we need to.
Lynn, when do we have to have those resolutions in?
They are due to WAM on May 8th, so it will have to be on next council's meeting, May 2nd meeting.
So if we could get that done, I'd appreciate it, because we'll have the, I'd put both those resolutions together. I'd appreciate it, thank you.
Okay.
And if there's any other resolutions that anybody else wants to see, I mean, we might try and jump on it and get something written up.
Okay, anything else? All right, we're gonna move on. The next thing on our agenda is an ordinance, second reading of this ordinance. Councilman Wells.
I move to approve second reading and waive the reading of the ordinance to amend Rawlins Municipal Code, Section 1015-070, failure to maintain liability coverage.
Second.
Oh my goodness, I've lost contact here. Let's see.
I've lost internet.
I did a little bit ago.
Okay, so there's been a motion made and seconded to, on the ordinance for a second reading and waive the reading of the ordinance to amend Rawlins Municipal Code, Section 10.15.070, failure to maintain liability coverage. Is there any further discussion?
Just to refresh, this ordinance had two different issues the way it's currently written. One, it was referencing the improper statutes, and the other was that it had the wrong requirement for, it's called mens rea in the law, but whether or not you have the intent to do it. Our ordinance had the incorrect intent. So this amendment fixes both of those.
Okay, any further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open.
Yay, and I'm hooking back up here. Oh, it did come up.
Okay. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
Okay, thank you. Next thing on our agenda under new business is the minutes of April 4th, 2023 regular council meeting.
I'd move to approve the minutes of April 4th, 2023 as presented.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of April 4th, 2023 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas and 1 abstain. The 1 abstain with Councilmember Gardner.
Okay, wasn't there supposed to be another set of minutes too for the?
They're down below.
They're down below, okay.
They're under it.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, next thing on our agenda is to approve a MOU. Councilman Wells.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding, MOU, with the Carbon County School District 1 for the Rawlins High School 2023 graduation banners.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the memorandum of understanding with Carbon County School District 1 for Rawlins High School 2023 graduation banners. Is there any discussion? And Pam, and I'll let you introduce your friend and take over the floor. I'm sorry.
Honorable Mayor and Council, again, we're so excited to be partnering with the Parents Committee. Jenny's here representing the Rawlins High School Parents Committee and the Carbon County School District number 1 for Rawlins High School and Victory High School. Again, we will be hanging the banners on the black decorative light poles. This year, Rocky Mountain Power is a new partner in this, and they will actually be the ones hanging them for us and taking them down. So that's great. So Jenny's here tonight as one of the parents and with a senior. And
yes. So they're going to hang them on the 15th, and they're paying for them for all of the, I think we started at 86 seniors. I think we're down a little bit. They're paying for them and they're hanging them, and then they're going to take them down for us. So yes. So they'll take them down, I think, on the 5th of June. So they'll be up for a little bit of time. And then they'll do a drive-through after the graduation practice on the 17th on the school buses. They'll go through town, and then they'll go back to the elementary school and the middle school.
So we will work with Chief Ward. I just got made aware of the drive-through. It was similar, not having the big parade on the weekend, but doing the drive-through on that morning, the 17th, it's right? So
Yeah,
Wednesday,
it's right after graduation practice at 8.
Yeah, so it'll be like what we did last year, where they'll be on the bus and we won't have all the cars and the parade. So we'll be working with the PD on that too. But again, it's just such a great thing that came out of COVID. I love to say some great things came out of COVID, and that's something like this and celebrating our graduates.
Okay, who's first?
I'll just say thank you. It's an awesome deal that it's been done, 3 years in a row, I think, now? 4.
This is our
fourth year in a row now.
Yeah.
No, it's an awesome thing to see the community get behind a graduating senior, and it's not an easy accomplishment to graduate high school. Some people might think so, but it's a very hard task that people endure during life, and it's good to show support for them. So thank you for what you all do.
Yeah.
What hat do you have on now? Because you came in with a different hat, and now you have a new hat on. Which hat is this one?
See all these gray hairs?
Yeah.
I don't know, Steve. I mean, Vice Mayor, sorry. The other thing I forgot to say, and it's in the information, that Carbon County's trustees, I'll wear that hat now, we will approve that on the 27th. So it's, again, they've already received the document from Wendy, which you guys have in an attachment, same one we've used the last couple of years, but their attorneys are looking at it. I have heard nothing back, again, letting Superintendent Hamill know that it's the same MOU that we have generated this MOU. Their attorneys have looked at it, and so it's been a win-win for them also.
That's good.
That's funny.
Thank you.
Very awesome. Any
Yes,
other
thank you.
discussion? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Please open online voting.
Online voting is open.
School district.
Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is a special use permit. Councilman Weisenberg?
I'd move to approve a special use permit, PZ 221101 for Home Express Delivery Services, LLC, DBA Timco Logistics, for a receiving and local distribution center at 2221 East Cedar Street, Rawlins, Wyoming.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve a special use permit, PZ-22-11-01 for Home Express Delivery Services, LLC DBA Temco Logistics for a receiving and local distribution center at 2221 East Cedar Street in Rawlins, Wyoming. Is there any discussion? And I will turn the floor over to you, Lewis.
Honorable Mayor and Council, we did have a meeting on April 11th with the Planning and Zoning. After looking at the schedule of uses in Title 19, I did call Wendy just to make sure we were on the right track so we wouldn't have any issues later down the line. Under our schedule of uses, nothing really fit what they wanted to do. So in our schedule of uses, section 89, if it's basically not in our uses in our our Title 19, then we have to apply for a special use permit. So the special use permit was applied for. I think it's going to be a good little business. They figure 3 to 5 years here at this location. They will hire local, 4 to 5 employees. Home Depot will bring the appliances to this location. There, they'll offload and get them ready for the delivery the next day. So it's in and out. We did send 11 letters out. We got 5 back with, well, actually 4 with no issues. 1 came back that as long as they used their, like Mahoney Street, not the parking lot, due to the damage that was done during the last snowstorm at the eye doctor's facilities. That was the only comment we received out of the ones that were sent out. So everybody was in agreement with it. Planning and zoning approved it as well.
Which side is it of that building? Is it where the dollar store was, or
It's
is
going
the
to be
other side?
between Tractor Supply and where the dollar store was, so that
Oh, it's right in the middle.
yeah.
Okay.
Because they have that loading dock in the back.
Oh,
And
I
that's what their main concern was, pull in, offload, and then they're gone.
Any further discussion?
This was a unanimous vote on planning and zoning, just so you all are aware of that too. It's what, 1 truck a day is kind of what they're estimated for delivery into there. So it's a lot of appliances that is being delivered from Home Depot pretty much.
Yeah, and they're exclusive to Home Depot. So if I wanted to, say I had an appliance store, I couldn't hire them out to do that for me. It's just Home Depot only.
Any other discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lou. The next thing on our agenda is a bid on a baler. Councilman Wells?
I move to approve awarding the bid for the purchase of a baler wide mouth HE60 with 27 pit conveyor from Pro Baler Services, Inc. of South Salt Lake City, Utah, in the amount of $146,473 with funds coming from Impact Assistance of Chokecherry.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve awarding the bid for a purchase of a baler, a wide mouth HE-60 with 27-foot pit conveyor for Pro Baler Service, from Pro Baler Services, Inc. out of Salt Lake City, Utah, in the amount of $146,473 with funds coming from Impact Assistance of Chokecherry. Is there any discussion? Councilman Weisenberg?
So 136,000 was allocated for the new baler, if I'm correct. It was through Chokecherry. Where is the other money going to come out of? And I'm asking this in regards to our budget meeting last week and knowing that the shortfall is going to be as big as what it is. Where are we going to make this up?
The overall budget through the Impact Assistance Chokecherry, the overall budget was about 4.1 million for this year. The projects identified within that were just over $2 million. And so there is excess or available budget within the Impact Assistance Chokecherry that would just have to be allocated to this purchase. The budget has already been approved. We just have to take the unallocated part of the budget and allocate it to this.
The other question I have with this then is, it wasn't really discussed at budget time. This baler was not discussed at budget time. I see it in the budget book. I have both budget books that I had went back and looked at. This was not discussed. It was what I remember discussed as an item was a $20,000 baler. The 60 I can't remember numbers specifically, $60,000 for concrete, because a $20,000 baler was a bigger baler with needing extra concrete. That's what I got out of the budget. I seen that this was approved, I understand that, but it would have been nice to have a conversation on this baler alone, especially with the cost of what it was.
So, Councilman Weisenberg, on the $20,000 baler that you've seen in the budget, that was for one of the small yellow ones that we currently have in our building. So the original plan was to every year allocate $20,000 for a little one, because what we have there now, we're parting off one that we found at the water treatment plant. How it ended up out there, I have no idea. So we were fixing our other ones up with that one. And then when we looked at the building, originally it was a lean-to.
Originally, yes.
And with the $80,000 that was allocated for the building, we figured, if we're gonna spend $80,000 for a lean-to, then let's just go with the bigger building. And that's when and we've looked at this baler, and if we look at what staff is doing now, we get loads from Blackwater, we get a load every Friday from Dirty Boys, and my crew, they load it up in a 20-yard dumpster, pull it around front, empty it out piece by piece, and they bale it that way. This new one is going to be to where we're still going to utilize what we have in the old building, because our public will come in and they'll offload. We can get 2 to 3 bales a week out of just what the public brings in that building. So with the bigger loads, they come in, they dump it. We have a Bobcat loader, push it in there, gets baled up, spits it out the other side, and we're done. So time-wise, it's going to save a huge amount of time.
When that building was built, or the lean-to was even talked about, the reason that at least I voted for it was the fact that we were getting more money for full loads of cardboard, full loads of plastic, full loads of glass, aluminum, 5 or 6 different products, right?
So we get our number 1 and number 2 plastics. We get aluminum. We get the gallon steel cans from the penitentiary. So it's kind of like the stock market. Right now, if we were to send a load of cardboard out, it's going to cost us $2,550. So we'd only be making $500-600 a load, to where we've got another trucking company that'll buy it from Colorado, and right now, with as low as the prices are, we're making $600 to $700 per load after paying for the shipment.
Okay, but the theory was that so that you could have a full load of cardboard instead of a partial load, and a full load of aluminum instead of a partial load. So on these 5 or 6 different products, you almost need to have storage for 5 or 6 semi-loads of product. Because if you're gonna send out full loads, you can't, you might have 5 semi-loads of product. I didn't realize that we were gonna be heating this building also, because nobody's gonna be working 20 below weather and baling cardboard. So now we're heating 2 buildings, when I was under the impression the pole barn was going to be a place to store these bales until we had a full load of a product. And so I don't remember seeing anything about this big baler. I don't. I mean, it might have been written in some book, but when they give you 20, 30 inches of papers, and on one line is that baler, well, I might have missed it.
Yeah, and
I'm
I
not
looked
very happy about it.
And I looked in the financial statements that were sent out back in February of '22. So that would lead me to believe that this was done in '21 for '22, '23. And it was in there, in every financial statement that was passed out. It was in every one. So, with this, the building that we have now, if this baler is approved, we have enough room for the baler. and we have enough room for storage on both sides of that building.
How big is that building?
The one we have, that we're.
The one you're building?
60 by 85.
Big building.
How big is this baler? How much room did it take?
I didn't see a picture.
60 by 27, right, I think.
And it'd have to be right in the center then.
May I approach up here?
Yeah, please.
So this is the diagram from the baling company, and that's where the baler's going to sit.
Is it gonna be in the back of the building or the front?
It's going to be in the back, because our initial plan is to have the trucks just back in, dump, and as soon as the truck's out, we have a piece of equipment going in there, pushing it into the baler.
So, where are you gonna store these partial loads?
We have, on the side, if you look, we have 20-foot ceiling height from the floor level to the bottom of the trusses. That's where the trucks are gonna come in and dump.
So
On
both
each-
sidewalls.
Both sidewalls are 16 foot on each side, which we could stack a stack of 3 bales of cardboard up on the inside of that. 20 foot between post in the center, which would give us adequate room to store our cardboard, aluminum, whatever we have.
Okay.
Do you wanna see that?
That makes more sense.
Which is quite a bit more than the lean-to would have provided, correct?
Correct.
Even with utilizing the space. Do you,
More about that.
you probably don't have this number, do you know how many hours, man hours it might save and what the cost savings will be by reducing them manually doing this?
Well,
like per year or because I know they're still going to get paid the same hours, but they'll be able to do other things rather than focus just solely on cardboard, correct?
Correct. We're still going to have the other building open for the public coming in. We still have the bins coming in that we have for drop-off location there at the site. So we're still going to be accommodating our customers there. So we'll have one guy, truck comes in, dumps, one person will go through there, make sure that it's fed and the bale's made. The other guy's going to be in the other building taking care of customers on that side. So we're still going to have aluminum. We're still going to have the gallon metal cans. We're still going to have the penitentiary coming out. Still going to have basically like an everyday run for us. And I had my guys keep track of the customers that were coming in from December to March. And between December, January, February, and March, we had 2,940 customers that come in. So that's roughly 735 per month coming into our little building, which we're going to still accommodate them people, but now we're going to take in the commercial haulers that are coming in instead of dumping it in the back of the building, where we have an area fenced off that Ryan constructed to keep it from blowing down to City Market. So we have a stack there now, and these guys here, they work for their money down there. When they're downtime, they fill up that dumpster, they wheel it in, piece by piece, it's coming out of that into the baler. But I could get that figured up and.
No, it's okay. I was just curious if just the cost per month or yearly saving is going to be worth doing this baler. If you see that is it a huge difference, or is it, that's what I was just curious
I think
about.
if we can, if we look at the turnaround of Sinclair, they brought 2 dumpsters. How big were they today, Brian?
They brought a 30-yard and an 18-yard in today and dumped it in the back because we're busy with the customers.
So, I guess 2 questions with that. With that cardboard outside getting wet and stuff, does that ruin that cardboard?
No, because it's going to go from this yard to the other yard, and it's going to stay there till they ship it out.
Okay, so now the other side of the budget side, a question too is, in the budget book, it shows some of it coming from community development, right? And then some of it is like recycling listed out. I know it's probably not going to matter because it's all choke cherry impact assistance, but that's where the confusion to me gets, right? Is you see something under community development, on some things, then you go down to recycling, which is an enterprise fund, and you want to be able to distinguish, you know what I mean? So I just want to make sure there's no issues with that, how that's in there.
Yeah, there should be no issue with that. We have the correct general ledger account number, and that's how we account for it. It's just the title that you see here ended up under community development.
Okay. So it's not just as clean, it's, yeah. Which is, it's frustrating sitting up here. I mean, it's nothing horrible, but it's frustrating sitting up here when you try to match things up and it's in different places. It's not your fault, you know, it's how it was presented last time, so.
Councilman.
So do we have to pour a concrete pad and everything for all this to set on, all that stuff? And
Yes, we do.
is that included in this? Where's that money come from?
That money's already been allocated through the impact assistance as well.
That was the 60,000 that I mentioned earlier.
It's kind of confusing because we're new to the council.
Yeah.
This was before us, so.
Yeah, 100%. That's when I seen this on there, and I wasn't trying. I'm not picking on you, I promise. I just see several different things. I went back to the budget book and was totally confused on different things. So I did see it in there of the 136. I'm glad we have the extra money and impact to make that happen. So.
Any further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open.
Thought I lost connection because it was like not coming up.
Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas and 1 nay. The 1 nay is Mayor Wycombe.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Next thing on our agenda is awarding a bid for some tasers. Councilman Wells.
I move to approve awarding of the bid for the purchase of a 22 taser electronic control device packages in the amount of $86,011.20 from Axon Enterprise, Inc. of Scottsdale, Arizona.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve awarding of a bid for the purchase of 22 taser electronic control device packages in the amount of $86,011.20 from Axon Enterprises, Inc. of Scottsdale, Arizona. Is there any discussion? And I would turn the floor over to you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Michael Ward with Rawlins Police Department. So these devices are the electronic control devices that we issue to our officers to give them another option when they have to use force. These are a less lethal option for them. Our current tasers went out of warranty a couple years ago. What that means is they still work, but the manufacturer has severed themselves from any liability should there be a civil case involving the use of these tasers. My understanding is that the police department has been trying to get these into the budget for the last couple cycles. Last year was my first budget cycle in Rawlins, and we were able to get them into the budget as a capital item. In the year, since they were put in the budget, we were preparing the budget about a year ago. We put aside $75,000 in capital to pay for these, and the two bids that came in were higher. So the lower bid is with Axon, and we would be requesting that you approve our purchase of the devices to replace the old ones for that cost. In talking with Tom Sarvey, we believe that there's enough unspent money in the police department's operational budget to make up the difference between the money that was allocated as a capital, and we would supplement that with unspent money out of the current budget in cycle right now to make up the difference.
Is that correct, Tom?
Yes, that is correct. There's some remaining budget in a equipment line item within the police department that we will use to make the difference up.
Okay. Any other questions?
In the numbers that we got that were showing how much extra money, or how much money wasn't spent for this year, was this included in that amount, or was it taken out?
It was included in that amount, yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
There's no trade-in on these, correct?
Correct.
So what's the disposal process of these old tasers? So
You know, I don't know the answer to that right now. I'll get back to you on that. I'm not sure if we turn them back to the company. If we did, then the obvious question would be, you know, do we get anything for it? Like firearms, we would trade them back in and get the money for it. I think because they're out of warranty with the company, they're not usable by anybody else. But I'm going to get back to you and I'll let you know how we dispose of the old ones.
if you would, I'd appreciate it. And then, I mean, this is kind of off of this taser subject, but firearms, you already purchased some firearms, my understanding.
We did.
What I had asked a long time ago, what the process was for the disposal of the old firearms too. So did you trade them in?
Not yet. We still have them. They're in the vault in the basement of the station. We're in the process of talking to a couple different companies. They would then assess their value of those guns and let us know what they would be worth. And these are both companies. Right now, we're thinking about doing this with companies that provide us with ammunition, and then we would have the credit to purchase that ammunition.
Okay, thank you. And just keep us up to date, please.
I will.
Any further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed and motion passes with 7 yeas.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. All right, next thing on our agenda is for some breathing apparatuses. Councilman Wells?
I move to approve a warning for the purchase of 8 self-contained breathing apparatuses units for $60,800 from C Western Fire Equipment.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve awarding for the purchase of 8 self-contained breathing apparatus units for $60,800 from C West Fire Equipment. Any further discussion? And I'll let you have the floor there.
Honorable Mayor and Council, I am here representing Chief Schumacher, who is home. He's been ill today. We received one bid for these 8 self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBAs. These are the air packs we wear if you're trying to figure out what that means. The bid did come in at $60,800, which is $800 over what was asked. Just like the PD, we have enough in our equipment line item to cover that, additional costs, those kinds of things. Our current SCBAs are rapidly approaching their end of life. That is coming later this year. And we've been trying everything we can to replace them, those kind of things. We have a few already. This will get us enough to keep us going as we continue to pursue funding for all the others that we need. We're still looking, after these 8, we're needing at least 20 more just to outfit all the trucks and those kind of things. So.
What kind of delivery time are you looking at, Helen?
I don't know right off the top of my head what that delivery time was. It's not.
It'd be real bad because they don't have to build them or nothing. They should have them in stock.
Yeah, most of them are in stock, and I was thinking
He likes truck.
6 to 8 weeks, but I can't remember it off the top of my head what that.
150 days.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay,
they need
yeah.
to, and they said they can accommodate that. Oh,
Yeah,
so they changed
no
it
later
to
than
90.
yeah, between 90 and 150 days. Yeah.
Okay.
I knew I'd seen it somewhere, and I couldn't remember reading it, so, yeah.
Councilman Wells?
I just know they're desperately needed.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Councilman
Nothing more
Weisenberg?
important than breathing.
Yeah.
I would say the same. I remember the conversations of the SCBAs and the need for them, because if I'm not mistaken, some of them were already expired, and they were using expired ones, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we've got a few that are out of service and stuff just for other problems, those kind of things, but
something, I'm thinking you guys applied for a grant too to help with some of this stuff too.
we've applied for a number of different grants.
So have you heard anything on that grant?
We haven't on any of the grants, and I'm not sure up on those. That's a better question for Chief Schumacher. But we have 4 already that we've received grants, and those are actually sitting at the station. We're waiting to put those in service through the Region 3 hazmat group. We've applied for more through them. Currently, there's several other grants that are in the process. We're trying to get funding for these.
Okay. I just remember that was a conversation, so I just want to make sure if that's going to go to, if we get some, that's going to go towards the other 20.
No, we're trying everything every avenue we have right now to continue to fulfill that. So
awesome. Appreciate it.
Any further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mayor,
Alan. All right, next thing on our agenda is the Wyoming Association of Municipality Voting Delegate. I would entertain a motion. Councilman Weisenberg.
I'd move to approve Mayor Terry Wycombe as voting delegate for the 2023 WAM Association of Municipality Summer Convention Business Meeting held on Thursday, June 8th, 2023 in Cody, Wyoming.
Second.
A motion made and seconded to approve myself as voting delegate for the 2023 Wyoming Association of Municipalities Summer Convention Business Meeting held on Thursday, June 8th, 2023 in Cody, Wyoming. Is there any discussion? And I see you're the presenter, Chris.
Yeah, I just I was voted in as a voting delegate for the WAM convention. I unfortunately have a obligation that's annually that ended up coming up in the same time frame. I'll only be able to make the 7th and 8th on this. The actual deal is on the 8th and 9th for voting, so I wouldn't be able to do that. So I'm just relinquishing that. I remember Councilwoman Lumen said she wasn't really familiar with the process and wouldn't mind being the alternate in the case that someone there couldn't make it. So that's why I'm relinquishing that and nominating Mayor Wycombe to replace me.
Is there any further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing on the agenda is construction account grant for Hannah and Vice Mayor Sanger.
I move to approve Mayor Terry Wycombe signing the countywide consensus block grant application form, BFY 1314, funding in the amount of $8,003 for the town of Hannah, reimbursement for the purchase of a loader and a dozer.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve my signature on the countywide consensus block grant application from BFY 1314, funding in the amount of $8,003 for the town of Hannah, reimbursement for their purchase of a loader and dozer. Is there any discussion? And I am the presenter, so I immediately called the mayor of Hannah and asked him where they bought a loader and dozer for $8,000. We want 2 of them. And what it was they purchased these pieces of equipment from a joint powers board, and then they approached SLIB with about the consensus money and could they get reimbursed for these pieces of equipment. And what happened was Miss Blackwell went back to evidently years 13 and 14, and found some money that was not given out in a consensus form, in a consensus cycle. So they had this money left over. They agreed to give it to Hannah if 75% of the county's population would agree to let them have that, just like all consensus money. There's them and one or two other towns, and if they have our approval, then they will be able to get this money. And just so you know, Hannah's poor. This will mean a great deal to them. So I would like to see us pass this. Councilman Weisenberg?
So in the future, are we going to see possibly a couple more come through with what you had just mentioned for other towns? Or is that other towns through the state or Carbon County?
You mean approvals of this?
Yeah.
They already have a couple of towns. Let me look here. I got it here somewhere.
Are they in Carbon County or?
Mayor.
Yes.
So they have the mayor of Hannah signed off on it, and then they also have the mayor of Saratoga.
Yeah.
So once, like the mayor stated, once, if you authorize it, that will be over the 75% of the population with these other two municipalities.
That wasn't the question.
I'm asking what, if there's other communities within Carbon County that we're gonna try and sign off on later, at a later date possibly.
To be honest with you, I don't think there's any money left. I think they found this at the bottom of the barrel.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They found $8,003 or whatever it is that hadn't been spent from years ago, and probably they were glad to give it away so they could close the books on those years.
I will say the mayor of Hannah is constantly digging in for funds. He is very smart and knows where funds are to be had. So he's done his homework on all this stuff. So
yeah, he's very aggressive. He's been to all the WHAM stuff, and they're actually going to send one of their people to this training. And just so you know, Sinclair's going to send 5 so far. So hopefully we can get 30, get that, and fill the room. Any further discussion about this? Do you all understand what's going on? Okay.
I do now.
Yeah, it was confusing. I had to call him and say, "What are you doing?" But that's what it's about.
Can you buy a loader and dozer for that?
Yeah, that's what had us confused. But anyway, can you please open online voting?
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
Okay. The next thing on our agenda is an executive session. Councilman Wells.
We have to go into executive session at 9:38 p.m. per Wyoming Statute 16-4405 to consider or receive any information classified as confidential by law and to consider the appointment, employment, right to practice, or dismissal of a public officer, professional person, or employee, or to hear complaints or charges brought against an employee, professional person, or officer, unless the employee, professional person, or officer requests a public hearing. The governing body may exclude from any public or private hearing during the examination of a witness any or all witnesses in the matter being investigated. Following the hearing or executive session, the governing body may deliberate on its decision in executive session.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to go into executive session at, did you say 9:38?
Yes.
At 9:38. Is there any further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you.
Have you practiced that to say it?
I think I
2 seconds flat.
City, they always end up looking at us.
Mics will stay live.
Both sides of the
Oh, okay.
so they just moved it over to Mill. Thank you, ma'am.
That guy is so active finding funds and different things. It's unreal. It's ridiculous.
You know what he's going everywhere. Do you have $5?
Kind of.
You know what? And if that's what you gotta do, you're on track. You're on track. So once you're on track, you're like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I seen him. I seen that gentleman. Him and his wife were coming up. They were in town and talked to the county assessors and all that stuff.
Jogged somewhere.
Did you buy anyone else? You heard us upstairs, Wendy, is that what you want? In her office.
Got that little conference room up there.
Did you invite Spanner into it?
No, Stan's gonna come.
Oh, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Night.
Don't bloat the view.
How are you? Good, how are you? Am I interrupting you guys?
Yes, you are.
Shall I excuse myself? Are we live?
Yes.
You're not, are you going down? No.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I just need to know, that's all. I didn't know if you weren't going down, that's all.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, to make a
All right, I'll
note,
see you
that's
guys.
all.
Yep.
I wasn't trying to pry, I'm sorry.
Forgot to lock my computer. I miss my people standing next to me.
Sorry. Yes, let me get you some.
I didn't figure you had any down there. And I already killed that one.
that till they're back, or are you okay?
We're good.
I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay.
Yep, 10 o'clock.
See you.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know how long I'll be down there, but I take my phone, if you wouldn't mind, if you
Text you.
would come back in quickly, I'll take my phone.
Okay, I'll text you. Okay.
Leave you all alone.
I'm just sitting here with all my friends.
Now you know how I feel.
No.
No. Let me go check the back door, okay? I got the others locked.
true. Mm-hmm. So, so Meyer and I think Mike's. Oh, I was gonna say, I have no idea. Is that college or is that pro? Pros. Oh, is it? So do they play hockey? They did? I just know. So I have to wait until we get IT versus that one. Okay.
Told you way off.
I like it. Oh.
That's when I check it. We're gonna repeat this stuff.
Do you remember the dates of the last SWAM conference?
Mhm.
What were they?
You went to Cheyenne, correct?
Correct.
Yep, so they were, he went, I have to.
Is it?
Well, you got a minute. I think. I don't know, maybe not.
Wham, 4 slivers.
All right.
Not gonna use your cup. Not doing that.
Yeah, slid was in February at the end.
Packing up.
It was in January.
Into January.
January?
January
Table.
25th through the 27th,
Oh, yeah.
something like that. Let me get, oh, here.
No, you're good. I
Nope.
just needed that date.
February? Is that what it was?
No,
January?
January. I have a calendar. Let me go back to January.
Plans
so I
are
can tell you.
conference.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yes.
Anytime,
So it
like
was,
winter.
The Wednesday, the 25th, 26th, and 27th.
Correct.
You left on the 27th, yes. Yes. I had to think of him because he went to Cheyenne. And, so I had to think about this.
Your bookcase? That's what mine become for a while. I'm like, what in the? I know, I was over here waiting.
Oh, you're already up.
Yeah, I'm on it.
All right.
How fast can you say it though? I'm gonna start timing you so you can say it the fastest.
Yes.
She was pretty fast. I don't think you breathed that entire back.
Oh, it's only a small one. She doesn't need to read the whole paragraph when you come out.
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Councilman Weisenberg.
I move to come out of executive session per Wyoming statute 16-4-405 at 9:57 PM.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to come out of executive session at 9:57 PM. Any further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open.
Yes.
Find my little piece of paper here.
Cheater shooter.
My cheater sheeter.
Councilmember Gardner, is yours not working?
Yeah, it is.
I will just ask, was there anything discussed
Wait a
in?
minute, may I hold- may I hold on? Computers were working kind of slow, I apologize. Online voting is closed, the motion passes with 7 yeas to come out of executive session.
Alrighty. Was there anything discussed in executive session that anybody found to be improper? Councilman Garner?
Yes.
All right. There was, a discussion about, when we all went to Wham, that, we paid for training for one of the councilmen who did not take advantage of it. And also paid for an extra motel room, and I personally would just like to have an explanation as to how that all went. And it was preferred to have that discussion up here, so I guess, Daryl, you can explain it.
So my understanding that the standalone session was provided free of charge to WHAM member communities as part of the 2023 WHAM Winter Conference. That's what it says in there. Invitation for the newly elected boot camp. So I'm not sure where this number is that you're coming up with, where it's coming from, because it was supposed to be part of the conference already.
Well, the conference cost $260. And the training part was $150 of that.
Right. It says right here that the standalone session is going to be provided free. Did that change?
Yes, here's the invoice.
And then when did it change? Because I was not aware that there was an extra cost on it.
I'm not seeing what you're seeing, but if it was being advertised as free,
What it says.
what I would assume is we don't pay anything. The city pays it.
Hold on. Sorry.
Right. It's free. We're not paying, we don't pay the
yours
200
was-
and some dollars. The city's paying
I
that
only
for
went to
us.
Yeah,
Right.
correct.
So it's free for us, but not for the city.
Correct.
That might explain the difference.
So if you wanted to join the boot camp and if you weren't going to be at the conference but wanted to join the boot camp, then there was a fee. And that's what it says in here. So that's what that fee is. So he could go to the boot camp.
Right.
But it's free. The conference in total was going to be the $260 anyway. The boot camp wasn't an extra cost.
No, but that's what the boot camp cost.
If you went and you weren't going to the conference. If you wanted to go to the boot camp alone, this was the cost. If you wanted to go to the entire conference, the conference cost total was $260 no matter what. Boot camp was included free.
Okay, but you were
You
there
weren't.
and you didn't go to the boot camp. And the boot camp was paid for as part of the $260. And so to know the difference between the cost of the entire thing or the cost of just the training, Vice Mayor Sanger went to just the training and his portion was $150. So
the
that's
deal.
what that training cost.
Exactly, that's what they show here. Wasn't going to get a discount if I skipped the training. You see what I'm saying? The cost of the boot camp was the conference is $260 no matter what. So if I couldn't make the training, it was still $260 to go for the 3 days. And on the last day, like I told you, when I went to leave, the roads were closed. That was the same day that big accident happened, that they have a big picture and all the semis are piled up. Just because I missed the window to leave doesn't mean that I should have to pay back that hotel room for staying the extra night. I ended up driving. When I got to Laramie the next day, I had to ask for permission to cross. I got permission, but when I got to Laramie, I couldn't go any further. I had to drive all the way down to 230 and around to Saratoga to get to Rawlins. So
That's the way I had to travel home that day.
Right.
That we traveled home.
So I missed. Interstate was closed. I looked at the app, fully closed, Rex. And then if we're going to nitpick on me for this, if I remember correctly, dinners were paid for too by conference. I didn't see you guys at the first night's dinner. Any of you. You all went to a restaurant. Attorney, you, Chris. Are you guys gonna refund that money?
There was no, the dinner was the next night.
It was the first night, because I was there and you guys weren't there.
The first night was a
reception.
reception.
Yes.
It was a
It was
reception.
food.
We went to.
But you didn't attend the whole thing, and if I remember correctly, you weren't there for part of the next part of the conference, because you went and did something for your business. that
There
you were
was,
signing up for.
there were different choices as to
You
what.
still missed part of the stuff. You misallocated time that you're supposed to be there. So if you're asking for me to refund money, you should refund money too for the amount of time you missed. No matter what, if it was the boot camp or sessions or anything. Whatever. You guys, this is typical. You guys try to point whatever you can at me. Come at me with whatever. Just keep doing it. I don't care. I'm not refunding your money. I didn't charge the city a dime for my meals. Not a penny. I paid all out of pocket.
I know.
And you can be reimbursed for that.
I know that, but I know I missed part of it, and I was okay not getting reimbursed for that part of it.
That's your choice.
Correct. Or I could turn in all my food receipts, and that would be more
And you
expensive.
can do that too. And actually, that's expected for you to do.
I don't need to. It's fine. I didn't for a reason.
All right, well.
So am I gonna be in trouble if I don't refund the money? Are you gonna do some better research before you come at me with something?
What do you mean better research? I have an invoice here for
And I have
both
a
things.
bulletin that says it was free. Do some better research. Excuse my reach.
Well. All right. It is 10:06 and this meeting is adjourned.
We still got an item on there.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Executive
yeah.
session
I'd
meetings
move-
of April.
I'll just,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were
Yeah,
gonna
yeah, yeah.
postpone that.
No,
I'm
we
sorry.
gotta
We
make a
are.
motion.
have to do it.
Formally table it, correct?
I'd move to postpone executive session minutes of April 4th, 2023 regular council meeting until the following regular council meeting.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to postpone the executive session, approval of the executive session minutes of April 4th, 2023 regular council meeting until the next regular meeting. Any discussion?
Wendy, do I need to abstain since?
Yes.
'Cause I'm not gonna be
because you were
voting,
present,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Abstain, please.
We'll just do a voice vote.
Okay, so online voting is open.
Abstain, please.
Yay.
Yay.
Online voting has closed, the motion passes with 6 yeas and 1 abstain. The 1 abstain was Councilmember Gardner.
All right, thank you. This meeting is adjourned, and the next meeting is April 19th, tomorrow, and it starts at 6 o'clock, and then the next one after that is May 2nd. May 2nd for the council meeting. All
Good
right,
night,
thank you.
everybody.
What is,
Oh,
You bet.
what is the?
There you go.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if we have, I'm gonna need a whole bookshelf for all the orders.
I do when we got council, I got the Board of Adjustments, I've got a stack that you wouldn't believe in Board of Adjustments. And every time you turn around, they send us something, well, this has got to change in there, so this ordinance changed, or you change this section and that section in there, and throw this section away, and it's like,
It's hard to keep up with all the changes, isn't it?
real
It
hard.
really is. So I'm gonna, can I leave
I'm gonna leave it in your drawer or not, because we have
My
other
drawer
meetings.
is full.
We have other meetings here. Board of Adjustments meets here, and all of them, everyone meets here. So, yeah, ain't just us.
I thought they met downstairs.
No, we meet all here. The Board of Adjustments and Planning and Zoning both meet here.
And I'll send it to you sometime tomorrow, is that okay?
Yeah, that one, and this one.
Okay, we're good. Need to give us a file cabinet. Oh.
I need a bookshelf for everybody. And Jackie's out of here really fast.
I know.
Almost as fast as she would say that executive session.
As long as somebody calls her, just tell me.
It disappeared.
I'm gonna have to carry it, it doesn't fit.